I am going to reveal to you how to identify the invisible tyranny of your assumptions and achieve a mental clarity you have never experienced, awakening your consciousness to what truly matters. As long as you do not question the silent architects of your reality, you will continue to miss essential opportunities and live a life limited by beliefs that aren't even yours. Through years of observation and practice in spiritual awakening, we understand that the greatest obstacle is not the external world, but the veil that clouds your own perception. And it's not about changing who you are, but about removing the blind spots that prevent you from seeing the truth that is already right before your eyes. In the next few minutes, we are going to perform an inner listening exercise so that you can identify, today, the first chain that can be broken. There is an invisible force that shapes every step you take, every decision you make, and even the way you perceive love, success, and pain itself. We aren't talking about a destiny written in the stars, but about something much closer, the subtle tyranny of your unquestioned assumptions. From the moment we wake up until the instant we close our eyes, we operate under a system of beliefs that we accept as absolute truths, without ever stopping to ask, is this actually true, or is it just something I've learned to assume? These assumptions are the silent architects of your reality. They whisper that you must act a certain way to be accepted, that happiness is always one step ahead, or that your potential has an insurmountable limit. In the awakening of consciousness, we understand that living without questioning these premises is like walking through a magnificent landscape while wearing a blindfold. You feel the ground, you hear the wind, but you miss the vastness of the horizon because your mind has already decided, in advance, what the horizon should look like. In this gathering, we will not seek new formulas or complex theories. The invitation is for a journey of deconstruction. We are going to dive into contemplative spirituality to identify where these blind spots are draining your energy and limiting your mental freedom. When we begin to observe the observer, the spell of automatic certainties begins to break. It is in this space of sacred doubt that the soul finds the air it needs to breathe. Prepare yourself to look beyond the obvious and recognize the chains you carry, often believing them to be parts of your own body. Oftentimes, we believe we are the absolute masters of our own will, but the truth is that we walk under the weight of silent architects who shape our worldview before we even open our eyes to reality. These chains are not made of iron, but of unquestioned assumptions that operate as an invisible tyranny in our personal development. Carl Jung warned us that until we make the unconscious conscious, it will direct our lives and we will call it fate. What you accept as normal or inevitable today may just be a deep-rooted conditioning that limits your spiritual awakening. We live repeating patterns of success and behavior because everyone knows that's how it is, without realizing that this silent agreement is what keeps us hostage. When we accept premises without the filter of inner listening, we lose connection with our essence. Real spirituality begins when we start to feel the weight of these chains and begin to ask, is this perception really mine, or is it just an echo of external voices? By identifying these seemingly harmless assumptions, like the idea that suffering is a punishment or that happiness depends on external achievements, we begin to untie the knots that bind our soul. It is a process of unlearning, where the fertile vacuum becomes the necessary space for new consciousness to flourish. True mental freedom is not the search for new beliefs, but the courage to observe the old ones without judgment, allowing them to dissolve in the light of presence. But for this dissolution to be complete, we need to understand the nature of the raw material that shapes our experience. These chains did not appear out of nowhere. They were built stone by stone, forming the invisible structure that now surrounds us. The assumptions we carry did not emerge from a vacuum. They are the sediments of social norms, fragments of childhood, and scars of past experiences that have crystallized in our minds. They act as an invisible architect, drawing the walls of what we consider possible or impossible. Jiddu Krishnamurti frequently spoke about how the conditioned mind is incapable of seeing what is new, as it is always filtering reality through the known. If you assume you are not worthy of abundance, or that the world is a hostile place, your biology and your energy will respond to that frequency, creating a reality that merely confirms your initial assumption. This insidious nature of assumptions lies in the fact that they do not shout. They whisper. They guide your career choices, your relationships, and your search for self-knowledge so subtly that you believe you are exercising free will when, in fact, you are just following a script pre-established by your limiting beliefs. The cost of this silent architect is high. It generates self-sabotage and limits your perspectives, preventing you from seeing the infinite possibilities of the quantum field. For the awakening of consciousness, it is vital to recognize that the reality you see is just a mirror of what you assume to be true. When you silence the noise of social assumptions and turn to the silent wisdom of being, the walls of that architect begin to shake. Inner transformation occurs when you stop being the building and start being the space where everything happens, free from the rigid definitions that the past tried to impose on your now. As we stop being the construction and start being the open space, something unsettling reveals itself. The areas of our lives we avoided looking at because they were hidden under the shadows of those old walls. It is here that we understand that wherever an unexamined assumption exists, a blind spot exists. These gaps in perception are areas of our lives where essential truth is present, but we are unable to recognize it because it doesn't fit into our mental preconceptions. Think of the relationships that stagnated because you assumed you knew the other person completely, or the opportunities for spiritual growth you ignored because you believed enlightenment is always in the distant future. These blind spots dictate your life without your consent, costing you spiritual clarity and emotional balance. Oftentimes, we let deep connections with people around us pass by because we assume another's silence is indifference, when it could be an invitation to presence. In the field of personal development, the most dangerous blind spot is believing we already know enough. The cost is financial, emotional, and relational, because decisions made from a partial view are inherently fragile. Contemplative spirituality teaches us to look where we do not want to look, to illuminate the shadows that assumptions cast over our reality. By recognizing that there are truths you are letting pass by, you open the portal to a new form of intelligence, one that does not come from accumulating data, but from removing obstacles to clear vision. It is like cleaning the mirror of the soul. What was hidden by blind spots was always there, just waiting for you to remove the veil of "I already know" to reveal itself in all its glory and simplicity. However, cleaning the mirror of the soul requires more than passive recognition. It requires the resolve of one who is ready to break the shell in search of the living essence that inhabits the center. To break the mold of assumptions, an act of spiritual courage is necessary, questioning the very foundation upon which we built our identity. This is not an aggressive intellectual process, but a practice of compassionate curiosity. We must approach our deepest beliefs not with defensiveness, but with the open mind of someone discovering unknown territory. The first practical step is self-observation. Identify which area of your life you feel the most resistance or discomfort. Usually, that is where an unquestionable assumption is operating like a harsh master. I propose a mini-challenge for you this week. Choose a specific area, be it your relationship with money, with your body, or with your solitude, and actively ask yourself, what am I assuming here that might not be true? When you question the status quo of your mind, you begin the reconnection with your spiritual truth. This breaking of the mold allows you to stop being a reflection of ancestral patterns and start being a conscious creator of your own journey. Remember that you are not broken. You are in a process of transition, where what hurts is only the old mold that has become too small for the soul that wishes to expand. By letting go of this invisible knot, you discover that security does not come from the rigidity of certainties, but from the fluidity of life that flows effortlessly when we stop fighting what we feel. And it is precisely in this sacred rest, when the effort to maintain the mold disappears, that the horizon opens up. The weight of certainties gives way to the lightness of presence, and we realize that the journey ends where authentic life begins, in the freedom to see reality without the filter of assumptions. Imagine the benefits of a mind that no longer anticipates fear or projects failure, but rests in the full presence of the now. This clarity brings with it improved decision-making and a peace that does not depend on external circumstances. When silent assumptions lose their power, you finally reclaim your inner strength and realize that freedom was never out there, but was always a quality of your own awakened being. Individuals and communities that have transformed by questioning the obvious show that the expansion of consciousness is the path to a simple and sacred life. By recognizing that your chains were made of unexamined thoughts, you become the lamp lit in the dark, illuminating the way for yourself and for others. True spiritual freedom is the recognition that we are the observer behind the thought, the consciousness that remains unchanged while assumptions come and go like clouds in the sky. From this clarity, every action becomes an act of presence, and every word an expression of the living soul. You no longer need magic formulas or instant miracles, because you understand that the greatest miracle is the ability to see things as they really are, with kindness, acceptance, and a deep reverence for the mystery that inhabits every moment. May we, in this instant, honor the silence that arises when an old truth falls away. If these words touched your soul, I invite you to a small practice of presence. Today, while performing any daily task, stop for 30 seconds and observe which thought is guiding your action. Just observe, without judging, like someone looking at the flow of a river. What if the clarity you seek is hidden exactly behind the certainty you don't want to let go of? If these words touched something inside you, perhaps it is time to take one more step on this path of reconnecting with your inner truth. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to continue receiving content that nourishes the soul with presence and authenticity. Share in the comments what resonated with your heart. Your story might be the mirror someone else needed to find. If you are looking for a safe harbor, know that our community is the sanctuary where fertile silence is shared and deepened. Check out the channel's posts. And to continue expanding this field of presence, we suggest the video pinned in the card. May it be a source of inspiration on your journey. Peace and light.